Hello folks. This video will be a huge departure from what I normally do, so hopefully it doesn't throw people off too much. I want to make it clear my channel isn't going to change. I'm not planning to talk about this type of stuff moving forward, but I felt compelled to talk about this particular product based on some stuff that I've seen lately. I think the company selling this product is dishonest and is charging huge prices for pennies worth of plastic that has no actual research or medical basis behind it. It is basically an expensive placebo that they try to make sound like more than that. But what's worse, they are the very ones spreading the fear and worry about electromagnetism and radio frequencies, and they're trying to convince people that they should feel bad due to negative effects from these things. The placebo effect goes both ways, and people can be convinced to feel worse just like they can be convinced to feel better. And after convincing you to fear all of this stuff, companies like this then offer to sell you a product that will supposedly counteract the harm that they've convinced you to feel. And what is this product? It is the Q-Link Pendant. It is supposed to make you feel better by tuning your biofrequency to a healthy frequency or something like that. There are several different, very vague descriptions and analogies of how it's supposed to work on the manufacturer's various websites. Every bit of the product and the marketing for it seems like a scam that relies on the placebo effect and confirmation bias to make people believe it works and make them feel subjectively better. However, the site does claim it is scientifically proven to work, and supporters of the product will insist that studies prove it works. So let's talk about it, and I'm going to then cut one open and see what's inside. First, there are no specific, concrete claims of what the Q-Link actually does for you. All of the claims are based on a person's subjective feeling of wellness. It says it may help you sleep better. It might make you feel less tired, or might make you feel more focused or more clear-headed. They are very careful to stick to the subjective and stop short of claiming anything objective or scientifically testable. All of the claims basically boil down to, you'll feel better. It's all very subjective, and it's the kind of stuff that could easily be affected by the placebo effect and self-affirmation. You convince yourself you feel better because you believe you're supposed to. In fact, they can't make any specific medical claims because if they make a positive medical claim, the FDA would require it to be tested for safety and efficacy. So to avoid any requirements for testing, they simply keep the claims vague and subjective and put a disclaimer on their site that says the pendant is not intended to treat or cure anything. Don't get me wrong, that disclaimer isn't technically an admission that it doesn't work, but it does show that they are not willing to make a hard claim that it does anything in particular because that would require it be tested and scrutinized. So how do they claim it works? Well, it supposedly works by receiving your body's frequencies and tuning them to healthy frequencies. They claim the pendants are programmed with an array of natural frequencies that resonate with your body and tune it and balance it to healthy frequencies. But they don't say what any of those frequencies are, how they know what actually is a healthy frequency versus an unhealthy one, how this device picks up frequencies of any type, how it transmits or resonates frequencies of any type, how your body picks up the healthy frequencies from this device, how your body could possibly be tuned to those healthy frequencies, or how they could possibly program a passive device that amounts to little more than a piece of plastic with a coil of copper wire inside. There are no scientific or technical details given. It is described as a passive device that works a bit like a tuning fork, supposedly sympathetically resonating with your body to make you feel better. They say it is just like when two friends stand near each other, you feel better, or when you stand in nature, you feel better. While the tuning fork analogy may sound good and call to mind a technology that is well understood and that people are aware of, it doesn't apply here. In fact, their own entire explanation for how this works could literally come down to pure psychology. Being with friends or in nature might make you feel better, but they insinuate the reason is because your natural frequencies interact and strengthen each other, and their device supposedly works in the same way. But these pleasant-sounding analogies do absolutely nothing to explain how this technology actually works. The pendant is supposedly a piece of electronic technology. It's supposedly programmed with specific frequencies. It supposedly receives and tunes specific frequencies. But they have absolutely zero scientific or technical details of how that actually works. But what about their claimed evidence? I looked into their claimed evidence for quite a while. Most of the claims on their multiple websites are simply statements that some study exists that proves their device works. They have pages on their site with lists of supposed studies and scientific tests. Unfortunately, on the main Q-Link page, none of them have links or data about the studies, just their claims about the studies. On their business site, there are links, but every single link either leads to a private file sharing login page or leads to a not found error. Not one single claimed study or test has a working link on any Q-Link site, so that people could actually verify the claims for themselves. Some of them do cite the publication where the claim was made. Virtually all of the citations list the exact same article by the same person in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. Based on what I can find, that article isn't the original source of the studies, it is just an article which itself claims that those studies exist. Plus, I wasn't even able to obtain that actual article to read it myself. I was able to find the website of the person who supposedly wrote that article. They are heavily invested in the energy healing industry. They sell the exact same type of products as the Q-Link, and maybe even the Q-Link itself, though I didn't confirm that. They also offer a 1-hour phone consultation costing hundreds of dollars where they will evaluate your biofield health over the phone and recommend a treatment plan. What do you figure the likelihood is that that treatment plan will consist of products from their website? But back to the Q-Link site. They do list many studies that have no cited source at all, just a study name and the name of the person who supposedly conducted the study. Since they don't provide any links, I spent hours searching for these studies. I was able to find only a few actual studies. I found one study similar to what the Q-Link site claimed, but it had nothing whatsoever to do with any of their products, and the conclusion of the study didn't support any of the Q-Link claims. Now, just to be clear, I can't say 100% for sure that it was the study that Q-Link listed on their site because the first name of the doctor was misspelled on the Q-Link site. If I used the spelling of the doctor's first name from the Q-Link site, there was nobody by that name at the university that the Q-Link site claimed. However, a very similar spelling did show up as a person at the university that the Q-Link site mentioned, and they did perform a test at that university that was extremely similar to what Q-Link claimed. So I believe that is the person and the study to which they were referring. And like I said, that study didn't support a single one of the Q-Link claims. The second study I found actually did involve one of the Q-Link products, but it was not the passive pendant, it was actually one of their active powered products. Unfortunately, when I tried to find the study again to get screenshots for this video, I was completely unable to find it. Okay, future me breaking in here for a moment. I had the video complete, I was going to upload it, and this whole section I described the article as I remember finding it, but I was unable to find it again. Well, I didn't want to leave it sit like that. I hate leaving kind of questions out there. So I kept digging, and I did find the article I was thinking of, and I found the real article. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, I found the article that shows the testing of the powered Q-Link product showing a reduction in EEG results. And it actually seems like a very professionally done article. They have charts and graphs showing different EEG readings over different amounts of time at different levels. Very specific stuff. But one of the reasons I was having trouble finding it again is because I was searching for it as supposedly an article done by Rodney J. Croft, PhD, at the Center for Neuropsychopharmacology, and I couldn't find this article by him. But what I found is, after I dug some more, not only did I find a PDF of this article, and I'm very glad I did, but I also found reference to the actual article done by Rodney J. Croft, or I should say the actual study done by Rodney J. Croft, published in an actual scientific journal with all the correct names associated with it, and it has nothing to do with Q-Link products. It's just the testing of the effect of mobile phones on EEGs. It has nothing to do with Q-Link products, Q-Link pendants, anything like that. What Q-Link did, and it sure enough does show in the acknowledgments, it says this research was funded by Claris Products International, which is the company that creates the Q-Link. And this article done in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine just takes the data and some of the graphs and some of the basically the technical information from that mobile phone brain EEG study by Rodney J. Croft, and then adds this layer of Q-link testing to it that did not exist in the original testing, in the original study. I have no idea if the actual Q-link testing happened. If it did happen, I have no idea who did it, because all of the references in here, in this article, or I should say this article in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, all of the references here are to real studies done by real people about, electromagnetic fields, about, like I said, this one by Rodney J. Croft, acute mobile phone operation affects neural function in humans. That's the real study. They reference that, but that study is not what this study is that shows the Q-link effects. So there's definitely something shady going on. They're co-opting that actual study done and trying to add their information to it to make it seem like there was a real study done that actually showed something. But I'm not seeing that here. This actually looks like a straight up lie, and this is actually one of the worst studies that I found. I no longer think this is one of the best pieces of evidence. I think this is one of the worst pieces of evidence because it shows that they are doing something disingenuous and really shady. In fact, they show some fancy charts and graphs in this, supposed study, and they are the exact same charts and graphs that were in the actual study by Rodney J. Croft in that scientific journal showing the effects of mobile phone radiation on the EEG, but they've just added a second set of dashed lines that is supposedly representing the Q-link affected results, but those were not in the original study. I found the original. Those lines weren't there. They weren't on the graphs. This is some shady stuff. Anyway, back to the video. The third study I found was a blood study that claimed the Q-link increases blood health. The study was done by Robert O. Young, an alternative medicine practitioner, and it was only published on his website. He based his conclusion on looking at blood samples under a microscope. His claim was that the blood cells of Q-link wearers were more regularly shaped and were arranged more orderly. The pictures of the orderly blood cells looked like the focal point of the microscope was different. In fact, the images were so different that the healthy Q-link blood barely looked like blood cells due to the unnaturally round shape with none of the lightening of the centers that you normally see with blood cells under a light microscope. There were also far fewer cells on the supposedly healthy slides that looked more orderly to him. It was very strange, it seemed unscientific, it wasn't peer-reviewed, and it was actually only published on Young's website. And bear in mind, Young is only a self-proclaimed expert on blood. In fact, he was charged with practicing medicine without a license multiple times over the years. He was actually convicted of multiple felony counts in separate trials over separate events in different states as well. He has made many claims of being able to determine health and dietary needs by simply looking at blood samples, and he was charged with grand theft for charging terminal cancer patients a lot of money for bogus treatments based on having looked at their blood. His only higher education credential is a degree from a non-accredited correspondence school called the Clayton College of Natural Health, which has a very questionable history itself and was closed in 2010. Many of the studies listed on the Q-link website were supposedly performed by Robert Young. The fourth study I found was another one testing EEG readings. It was performed in part by a man who runs an energy health and holistic wellness center and was published in Subtle Energies and Energy Medicine. They studied the effects of the Q-link pendant on the EEG response to the electromagnetic stressor of a digital clock being placed near someone's head. The conclusion was that the data suggested that a Q-link pendant could reduce the negative effects of EMF from a clock on an EEG reading. I'm certainly no expert on EEG readings, so I will take their claims of improvements at face value. They did 4 sets of tests, each using 2 groups of, quote, real Q-link pendants and 1 set of fake pendants. The difference between the two groups of real pendants is that one of the groups was supposedly programmed by Q-Link and the other one was not. However, when the results towards the end of the test seemed to indicate that the programmed and non-programmed groups of pendants were performing the same, they just decided to combine the results of those two groups, in their words presuming that the programmed and non-programmed pendants had, quote, somehow communicated with each other and transferred the key processing information. That is some extremely unscientific nonsense. They concluded that this must have happened because the results got closer as the tests went on. So they figured the pendants must be essentially communicating and programming each other? I have no idea how in the world two pendants would communicate and transfer programming between each other. And why would a presumption that this took place be a reason to combine two sets of data in the study? They even admit that the small placebo group is below the appropriate sample size, but then they simply say that it is robust enough. Looking at just the final data, there were tests that showed that the fake pendants were more effective than the real ones, and in some tests, the real pendants were more effective than the fake ones. If you add all the numbers up from all of the tests, the fake pendant showed EEG improvement 47% of the time, and the real pendants showed improvement 57% of the time. Forgetting all of the issues already mentioned with their testing methodology and admitted presumptions, those numbers do seem to suggest that the real pendant is slightly more effective than the fake one. But that brings us to the next huge issue with this test, and one that they freely admitted. The fake pendants were clearly, visibly different from the real ones. I would hardly call that a definitive result considering how close the results were when looked at overall, and considering the fake pendant was clearly identifiable. And that's best case scenario. The results are based on a ruling of either positive or non-positive changes to the EEG readings when wearing the pendants, according to the tester's interpretation of the EEG data. And that positive or negative was simply based on, did it positively affect the negative changes of the clock, or did it not positively affect the negative changes of the clock? As I said, I know very little about EEG data, but the document had very little actual EEG data presented, so it's not like any experts could look it over and see if the conclusions were sound. Technically, I did find a couple of other articles by Robert O. Young that were listed on the Q-Link website. But they were just that, articles, not studies, and they had absolutely nothing to do with any Q-Link product. So I'm at a loss for why they would be listed on the Q-Link site, other than to make it seem like there's this overwhelming body of evidence that simply doesn't exist. And that was it. That was everything I found. Nothing peer-reviewed, nothing very scientific, and nothing remotely definitive. For many of the studies listed, I couldn't find any evidence that they actually exist other than the mentions on the Q-Link website and other sites selling Q-Link products. That doesn't prove that they don't exist, but Q-Link sure isn't going out of its way to show you the actual studies. And no wonder, at best, they grossly misrepresented the results of the studies I was able to find. At worst, they are flat out lying so that they can charge $100 for 2 cents worth of copper and plastic to desperate people who just want to feel better. Now let's take a closer look at the actual Q-Link pendant. It looks for all the world like a little coil of wire set in some plastic. They claim it is a passive device while also claiming that it is programmed with an array of healthy frequencies. We also saw that one study presumed that the pendants were even communicating with and programming each other. That makes no sense. And it would be incredibly impressive for a passive, non-powered device like this. All it takes is shining a flashlight through the pendant to see that the coil of wire isn't connected to anything. That coil of wire isn't powering anything or acting as an antenna for receiving or transmitting frequencies because it isn't connected to anything. It can't be doing anything other than being a small coil of wire. But let's see if we can cut this thing or grind it open and find out what else is in there. So I don't know how interesting the actual grinding part will be, but I'm going to try and cut or grind a section off of the back. so that I can see whatever is behind the center here. All right, I did the rest of the grinding off camera because it wasn't all that exciting, just more of the same. I have it ground most of the way through, all the way around. So I'm going to see if I can pry that little plug out of there. Oh yeah, very easy. Okay, it looks like the back side of it doesn't really have much to show. So interesting. All right, let me do a little bit more cutting and see if maybe we can actually just get that piece completely out of there. And just to show the progress, there is this little, I don't know, like capsule in the middle, but it kind of just seems like it's some kind of epoxy. If I shine the flashlight through it, not only is there a hole straight through the middle of it, but you can kind of see through it a little bit. Some light does come through it. Here, let me adjust the camera a little bit so you can see that better. So some light is coming through it. And in fact, like I said, there's a little hole right in the middle. I really don't see that there's anything in that other than, oh geez, maybe some maybe some colored epoxy. But I'll keep cutting at it. The heck? There's like some kind of paper on the back of this little disc, almost like it's peel and stick. Actually, no, it is absolutely sticky. So they have these little discs. They peel something off the back, they stick it in there, and then they mold it in. Let's see if we can get more of this paper off of here. Wow, this isn't even a fake circuit board like I kind of anticipated. This is nothing. So yeah, it is perfectly smooth and flat under the paper. There is nothing under there. And this thing, let me just show this thing a little better here. This is what is inside the pendant. A paper-thin little, I don't know, dollop of colored epoxy on a piece of self-adhesive backing. And, I mean, there we go. Snapped it in half. Nothing. It is absolutely nothing. It is a tiny piece of epoxy. It's not glass. It's not a crystal. It's clearly some kind of, I can peel little shavings off of it. It's just a plastic epoxy on a piece of self-adhesive backing and a little coil of copper wire. There is absolutely nothing technological about this. It is literally a little piece or a little coil of copper wire set in a piece of acrylic with, I don't know, a little self-adhesive dollop of nothing stuck in the middle so that, you can't see straight through it and can't see that it's clearly nothing. But it's nothing. This is nothing. Anybody that wants to defend against the people that say you're paying $100 for a tiny piece of copper wire and a piece of plastic, and you say, oh, well, you don't know what's all in there. I can see what's in there. It's nothing. It's junk. So considering that their website practically admits that this thing works via the placebo effect in the same way that being near a friend or being near nature makes you feel better, there's nothing in here. So it clearly is relying 100% on placebo effect. And, if they were charging a few dollars for them and saying, hey, it's a mystical healing pendant and it'll make you feel better and, it's $7.50 or whatever, then it'd be the one thing. But they're acting like there is a whole bunch of peer-reviewed science behind it. It's proven technology. It's proven to work. They lie about the science. They charge an exorbitant amount for it based on the fact that it's part of some kind of supposed proven science. But even what's worse is that this is the cheapest product on their website. This is $100, but they have pendants that are made out of gold and silver and stuff that range all the way up to, no joke, $3,600. But they also have active devices. This is a passive device. They have active devices, which is literally a circuit board powered by either batteries or a USB port, and it supposedly transmits over 100 healthy frequencies actively to create an aura around you that's supposed to make you feel better. Now, once again, this is coming from the same types of people that will act like other technologies and other frequencies around you are harmful, and yet supposedly their device, which transmits 100 frequencies, that they won't even tell you what they are. They won't tell you what power they're being transmitted at. There's no data behind it. They just say it does it, and people are supposed to just trust that it's healthy for them. That kind of blows my mind as well. You might get somebody that won't even want to use a wireless phone or won't want to use a wireless microphone or something because they're worried about that, emissions, those radio frequencies, those electromagnetics that are supposedly going to hurt them. But they'll pay $850 to a company like Q-Link to send them a mystery box that they claim is transmitting a whole bunch of frequencies. They won't tell you what the frequencies are. They won't tell you what the transmission power is, anything like that. Now, a wireless microphone, you can look up and see the transmission power. They have to file all that stuff with the FCC. It all has to be approved. It all has to be acceptable levels. And you can see all that data. They publish it. This thing from Q-Link that transmits all these frequencies, they won't even tell you what they are. They just tell you you're healthy, charge you $800 for it, and people just trust that, oh, these are healthy frequencies as opposed to the other stuff I'm being exposed to every day. Where's the evidence of that? They won't even tell you what it is. So, I don't know, man. This Q-Link company, it's just modern day snake oil is all it is. Now, don't get me wrong. The placebo effect is real, and I was very, very hesitant to even make this video because if someone has this and it's making them genuinely feel better, I don't want to take that away from them. I don't want to say, oh, hey, it couldn't possibly work and make somebody feel worse. But there was enough stuff out there and a couple of things that I won't get into here, but it just made me feel like I really wanted to talk about this and show that these things are nothing, and it's very easy for a company to claim all kinds of things about how something is proven, but if they don't give you any easy way to look into it yourself to verify that they're not just making stuff up, then be cautious, because they might be making stuff up. So anyway, like I said, pretty big departure from me. I'm not going to talk about this kind of stuff often, or if at all ever again, hopefully. But I just wanted to talk about this one in particular. If you have any questions or anything, post them up down below. I'll answer if I can. As always, thanks for watching. Take care.